by the third day, having that space allowed my brain to expand and allow thoughts that were kept at bay because they were somewhere in the middle of that inbox in my head of to-do lists, and they just never emerged. Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero? Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Recovery Secrets Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe, and if you follow me on Instagram or any of those other lovely places where I share stories, etc., you know that I just recently came back from a silent retreat. Now, if you know me, you know that being silent is not one of the things I do frequently. I kind of joke about this, but it's really not a joke. I talk or listen to other people talking essentially through every moment of every day. And that's not a new thing. That's been in my life since I was really young, right? Like I talk about the story of my dad leaving the family when I was 8 or 9 years old. And after that, my mom would come to me and talk to me about a lot of what's going on in her relationship and in her life. So I've been either listening or talking. I used to talk a lot in classes too, really since I was like 6 or 7 years old. I was thinking about it as I was committing to this retreat, and I hadn't been quiet for 3.5 days ever in my life. Like there had never been a 3.5 day period where I didn't say anything. Now, I definitely used a few words in these 3.5 days, and I can talk about that in the future, but there had never been days where I didn't speak or listen to somebody else ever before in my life. So that was a huge undertaking. And I went through all the phases. I was writing in my journal. I was excited when I first had the idea to go, and I can talk a little bit about how that happened as well. But I was excited when the idea first came up. I was excited when I was looking for the place. When I was booking it, I really was ready to commit to 2 nights because that was the minimum this place would allow. And Sophie said, no, go for 3. I think Sophie was secretly going like, no, you should really be quiet for a few days. So I did. I signed up for 3, and it felt like a lot. And it felt like a lot as the days were getting close. But then I was really excited the day of. I got in my car. It was in Northern California, so I had to drive up, and it was a 6.5 hour drive, and I was really excited and having a great day driving up there. But I remember I wrote it in the journal. I checked into the place, and then you had to go, after you unloaded your car, you had to go drive your car into the parking lot. And it was, like a 1/4 mile walk or something. And I remember already on the drive into the parking lot and then on the walk back up to the house, thinking to myself, oh man, 3.5 days is just too much. I think I overcommitted. I could do this for like a day and a half or 2. I could stretch it, but that third night, do I really need to stay here? And I was already starting to kind of like bargain with myself, right? In a way, I think I probably was looking for a real way out because that's how anxiety provoking it was for me. You've heard me talk about this before, though. I also know from my relationship with Sophie and my life in general that it's these kinds of experiences that push you to your edges. They're the ones you benefit the most from. So I'm glad to say I made it through the entire 3-night experience. I'll talk much more about it, I'm sure, in the upcoming weeks. But I wanted to start out with some of the things that I realized that I was looking at the world through the wrong lens and perspective, in case that resonates for you, and in case you will also figure out that you might want to change the lenses on your glasses that you're looking at the world through. And so one of the first things that it dawned on me, now I'd heard it before, Sophie and I have talked about it a number of times, but it didn't land in the same ways, that I came from a house where being busy equaled good. What do I mean by that? Really, I've talked before about how my family never really mentioned emotions at all, but they definitely mentioned things to do. Your to-do list was a big thing. To this day, one of the first things my mom and I talk about when we get on the phone is what is on the task list, what has to be done, what had gotten done, did things that needed to be complete get checked off, et cetera, et cetera. It was a doing culture. And my dad was the epitome of that. My dad was an athlete and an academic and a social butterfly all at the same time, which meant he was really, really busy all the time. And that was held up as the standard. I can't tell you the extent to which in my head, if you were doing a lot, you were doing well, became fully ingrained. The funny thing about it is that I actually used to rebel against that when I was younger. So even though I came from a house where busy was good, I rebelled against my dad, from the time I was 12, 13 years old till I was about mid-20s. I tried to do everything I could to not follow that path, which meant I bummed around in school. I ditched school. I tried to go against being busy equals good. I said, well, screw you guys. I'm going to do nothing. The ironic thing is when you're rebelling against something, you're still letting it dictate your life. So if you say, well, F you, you think that by me being busy, you'll value me more. Well, I'm going to show you that I don't need to do anything. You're still letting the concept that doing something and being busy means you're good dictate how you're acting. You're just deciding to go against it, which now still rules your life. The thing is, in the last, especially since I turned 25, 26 and got out of jail and all the other wonderful stories you've heard about in my past, I've gotten a lot of stuff done. Still fully buying into that principle, right? That the more you do, the more you achieve, the better your success, the higher your barometer of success in life. And so by now, I'm actually, Sophie and I share about this all the time, I'm baffled and completely just enthralled and awed at the amazing success we've been able to have and I've been able to have, right? Like moving from an ex-meth addict who just wanted to be able to get a job and not end up back in prison to having the opportunities I've had over the last 20, 15, 18 years, whatever it's been, is magical. And I will never forget that. And I am always, always grateful for that. And we've shared about some of the ways that I've gotten that done. You might have listened to the episode about how I became more of a morning person and some of the specifics. And it's definitely true that I've realized ways to get a lot done. I'm sharing more and more of that because it's gotten me some way towards my success. But if you know my daily checklist, you also know that I realize the role of meditation and mindfulness in it. So literally like a time to breathe or a time to meditate, a time to fill out my gratitude list. Those are parts of my mornings because I realize the importance of them. And those are things that were not presented in my family. Like I never even heard of meditation and mindfulness when I was growing up. For my parents, it was just not part of their world. It just didn't exist. What's up, everybody? So, I like sharing with you the little tips and tricks, the little hacks that I have in my days. And recently that was about morning routine and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I've added to my morning routine recently is this pretty incredible stuff from PureKana that is the CBD capsules, but they're incorporated with things you would take at that time of the day anyway to make the whole kind of alchemy work better. And let me explain what I mean. So I got these two different sort of pills from them. One is a nighttime PM preparation and the other one is AM. Now, at night, I don't really like taking a lot of things because I don't want them to be habit forming. I work in addiction. I don't want to start taking sleeping pills, but sometimes the days just make it tough to fall asleep and kind of turn that brain off. And so one of the things I've taken in the past was melatonin. Well, this combines melatonin with CBD. Some of you may have heard for a long time now about CBD's abilities to reduce inflammation, help with some kind of low-hanging fruit mental health issues like anxiety and stress. And so I really, really love combining the two. By having this preparation, I'm not habit forming. There's no addictive properties to what I'm doing. And yet I wake up feeling refreshed and my sleep is just like amazing. I knock out so quickly. It's amazing. But then in the morning, I take their AM preparation. And the AM preparation combines caffeine with CBD. If you're like me, sometimes you drink coffee in the morning and you get a little jittery and you get that kind of edge. And one of the things I've noticed about adding CBD to the caffeine is it really takes that edge off. But the nice thing is it's not like they load it up with a ton of caffeine. So it's really more like a shot and a half of espresso in one of these capsules that I take in the morning. so I still get to have my superfood coffee, because I'm the guy who makes the superfood coffee in this house, and if I stop making coffee, I think my wife might divorce me. So I get to still make the coffee. I get to enjoy my caffeine from, my cup of joe, but at the same time, I get the CBD to just kind of take the edge off, which has been really, really nice. So I've been taking these for a few weeks, and I really notice a difference in my sleep. If that's something that you are looking for and you're looking for a solution, I know there's so many CBD products, it's hard to know what to invest in. I really love this PureKana stuff that I'm using. And these guys were nice enough to offer y'all a discount code. I'm not at all Southern. I don't know why y'all just came out. The code is pretty simple. It's Dr. Adi, D-R-A-D-I, and you get 20% off for as long as you want to order stuff from them. So if you're looking for some help with sleep, or you're looking for some help with waking up in the morning but taking the edge off your caffeine spike, this is the stuff. Check it out. You'll love it. Now get ready for the episode. So I definitely realized the importance of that. But the thing is that what happened right after. So my life used to be incredibly against being busy. And then I kind of went into this black hole, right? The arrests and the drugs and the jail and all that stuff. And then I got out, and I gradually got busier and busier and busier. And so if you look at my schedule now, it looks insane. I have this morning checklist, but right after, I would allow myself a little room for meditation and mindfulness, or space to breathe, or whatever it is that I did that morning, exercise, etc. I loaded up the entire rest of my day with tasks. Why? Because my rationalization and recognition of how much I needed space was limited to that morning, where I kind of etched out a little time for myself. But after that, it was right back to being busy equals good. And man, when I say loaded up, I mean loaded up, right? Like, I will start my workday between 6 and 7 a.m. somewhere. So let's say 7, and then I will go till 6 or 7 if nobody interrupts me, and I will just head down doing things. And there's the saying in business that says, you can't work on your business and in your business at the same time. And first of all, that's definitely true when it comes to work, but I think it's actually true when it comes to life. And I didn't realize this piece until this 4-day silent retreat. When I'm doing things, when I'm actively engaged in doing things in my day-to-day life, I'm not necessarily creating the space in my head to improve that life. And if you've listened to me or Sophie for any length of time, you know that we are always looking to push the boundary of how good we can have it. And again, I'm awed by how good it's gotten, but that doesn't mean there's no room for growth. And so I literally didn't know this. I didn't understand this. I couldn't have told you this up until about a week and a half ago before recording this. But when I checked into this place, my mind was full. Like, those old offices where they would have an inbox and an outbox on everybody's desk? It was like my inbox had, 3 feet of papers just stacked. And so every day I was trying to get through most of it and making my checklist and prioritizing and getting through it. And I was freaking good at it by now, right? I really killed a lot of it, but it never ended. It just kept filling up, and there was always more stuff to do. And for the first couple of days in this retreat, it continued. First of all, I read a lot, and we'll talk about that in a future episode, but my thoughts were constantly busy with all the things I brought to the retreat with me. That's why it was actually a blessing that I stayed for that 3rd day. Because through day 1, 2, and the first half of the 3rd day, including each one of the nights, because it took me a while to fall asleep, it was like my brain was purging all the to-do tasks and lists that I had. And it was only in that 3rd day that I got time to really just sit. I'll walk you through, I just wrote about this a little bit ago, but my breakfast ritual was to literally wake up, make coffee after going for a little walk or a jog outside. And then when I went to make breakfast, it was so simple. It was like pull the ingredients from the refrigerator, walk them over, grab a pan, take a little bit of butter, put the butter in the pan as I was making the eggs. And then, as I was as the eggs were kind of cooking, after I mixed them in a bowl, I would make my salad. And when that was all done, I would put all the stuff in bowls and put the dishes in the sink, walk outside with my food, eat over the next, 15, 20 minutes, just looking out in the world. And, just think or read, nothing else to do. And when that was over, I would go back and wash the dishes slowly and deliberately and be done. And I'd never had that much space to eat breakfast ever. And it seems so trite, or it seems so meaningless. But by the third day, having that space allowed my brain to expand and allow thoughts that were kept at bay because they were somewhere in the middle of that inbox in my head of to-do lists, and they just never emerged. And so what was really interesting is it's almost like insights and understandings about some of the bigger projects in my life, at work, etc. They kind of just landed. But they only landed because there was this empty space for them to land in, right? They wouldn't have been able to land with an entire busy laundry list of things that I have to get done. And so what dawned on me in this 4-day retreat that had never before dawned on me is that in order to do really well with the things that I'm busy at, I have to have a real ability to tune in to the actual importance, to the actual relevance, to the actual fit of those tasks into my life. But just like in your business, when you're really, really busy doing things all day, it's hard to appreciate their meaning. It's hard to appreciate where they fit into the big strategy of work. The same applies in life. You can be busy forever. You can find things to fill up your day from now until the moment you die and never actually look up. And the epitome of this came to me on a walk in this retreat. As I was walking from my room, the bell had rung and the meditation was happening. And I walked out of my room and into this natural path. And as I walked down the path, there were flowers to the right and left of me. And I remember something caught my eye, and I just saw this bunch of these kind of flowers hanging from this path, these blue flowers. And I stopped and looked at them, and immediately the phrase, stop and smell the roses came into my head. We've all heard it. We've all thought about it. Maybe we've even stopped and smelled the roses sometimes, but it dawned on me that the reason these cliches exist is because sometimes you have to create the space. You have to stop, right? You have to actively stop. You can't be busy and smell the roses. You have to stop. And so as I was walking towards this meditation with nothing else to do after eating breakfast, I had space in my head to look up and look at these flowers and admire their color and the way that they hung, etc. So what I'm doing for the next at least few weeks, but probably a few months in my own life is stopping, understanding what role the tasks that I'm filling my days with actually play and where I'm trying to go, and then going through a very deliberate process of gradually eliminating, reducing, and handing off tasks that are not serving my greater purpose. Because in the end, my goal is definitely not to be busy, right? The goal is not to be busy. And if removing some of that busyness, if removing some of those tasks from my to-do list, allow me to actually do better, right? Become more successful, become happier, become more content, have more happiness in my life, then it's the space that will be serving the greater goal and not just being busy. I don't know if this relates to you in your life, but if you're finding yourself being busy, stressed out, anxious, and not having space to think at all, I really, really recommend going through the work of just seeking out those little areas where you can plug in a little space, right? Actively plug in more space. Not just in the morning like I've been doing, and hopefully you're doing that at least, but throughout your day to give you a much, much better perspective on where you're going and whether you really want to get there. And if you really want to share with me, screenshot this right now and tag me at Dr. Adi Jaffe at ignited.me and let me know what revelations came to you and how you're going to apply this in your own life. Thank you all so much. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you. So please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.